Hello, I'm live, there's no one here, I'm talking to myself. Just talking to myself. It's a funny thing. Just talking to myself. She's on the internet.
Cicely.
Dave, you just use her name and this will be on the video that gets put, and I just use your name. It's just all wrong, isn't it? Off the internet, please. Hello, there are people here, 3 people. Hello. So, welcome to my second ever live stream. Could you turn the sound down, please, Mr. Purple? So, just to let you know that I have got my lovely assistant, Mr. Purple, on the laptop, and how this is going to work is that he's going to take your questions, so you can start asking questions right away, and he's going to pass them on to me, and I'm going to answer. So whilst I wait for your questions, I'm going to update you on our COVID-19 situation here in the Purple House. Hey in Canada. And we have one person in the 7-day isolation situation because of a high temperature. One girl is on lockdown until next Wednesday, so a lot of time at home. I've noticed that my diary suddenly massively cleared, which, to be honest, not really that sad about. So it looks like I'm going to have lots of time at home to do my hobbies, my drawing and my Lego and stuff like that. So I'm kind of pleased about that. We are all okay though so far. Trying not to panic. I think the COVID situation for autistic people can be particularly challenging because we can tend towards being a little bit extra anxious about things anyway. So some of you might be feeling extremely anxious at this time, and I just want to try and reassure you that we should all try and stay calm and rational as much as possible, and hopefully things will be back to normal soon. So in other news, I got a new tattoo. Some of you might have seen my autistic and getting a tattoo video about 6 weeks ago when I talked about this tattoo that I got over Christmas. I had to go back to get a touch-up in one area of the tattoo that wasn't quite as it should be, and I sort of thought, while I'm there, I might as well get another tattoo, which I'm aware may be a bit of a dangerous game, because if this one needs a tattoo and I end up basically covered in tattoos because I can't resist going back and getting another one, that's not going to happen. But I did get a new tattoo. For those of you that are interested, it is not looking at its best at the moment because it's at the kind of scabby stage of tattoos. It is Soot Sprites from Studio Ghibli. They are in, I think, Spirited Away and My Neighbor Totoro, which is one of my favourite Ghibli films. Does anyone else like Ghibli? Is there anybody there? You're all very quiet. Is anybody saying anything? No, watching but not saying anything. Hello? Is there anybody there? What would you like me to talk about? Hello? So should I just ramble on, waiting for people to... You like Studio Ghibli. Ghibli, it's pretty awesome. So I'm quite enjoying the fact that they've just put a large collection of Ghibli films on Netflix, because it used to be quite frustrating. Hello, Zoe. It used to be quite frustrating to try and get hold of them because you could only really watch them if you'd got them on DVD. And now they've put a whole bunch. There was a bunch went on, I think, at the start of February, and a bunch went on at the start of March, and I think there's another bunch going on at the start of April, certainly on UK Netflix. And so far, new ones that we've watched. Today we watched Princess Mononoke, which was an epic film. I really, really enjoyed it. And last week we watched The Cat Returns, I think it's called, which is possibly the most surreal film that I've ever watched, featuring mostly cats.
So, Crimson Dom, what's your ultimate Lego set that you'd love to have?
What's my ultimate Lego set that I would love to have? Great question. And an easy one to answer. I would really like the Lego Ghostbusters fire station. It's really big and really expensive, so I don't think I ever will get it, but I would really like it. And I'm also not sure whether it's still for sale. Do you guys know? I don't know. I saw it in the Lego shop in London a couple of years ago, and I thought it was the best Lego set that I'd ever seen. On the smaller scale Lego sets, oh, the other Lego set I'd quite like is the Apollo 19? I want to say Apollo 19. I don't know. The space rocket. I don't know what it's called, but I think it's a really cool set. Any more questions? What should I talk about?
Is there anything to do to make the change easier?
Anything to do?
Somebody's loving the extra time at home, but all of a sudden change is hard.
Okay, yeah.
Stop the film.
Sorry. That is one thing that can be quite tricky, and I have been struggling with the fact that my routine is completely changing, because we have quite a firm routine here in the Purple House, particularly for Wonder Girl, who's educated by tutors at home. And since she's now on the 7-day lockdown, everything has been cancelled. And I did feel quite anxious about this morning. And I think that the best thing to do is to try and create a routine that can work in the new conditions. So for me, that means still getting up in the morning and doing my physiotherapy and the things that I do in the morning in a certain order, and then basically filling my day with tasks from my to-do list that can be done at home, and hobbies and rest. So if you could create yourself a new structure, hi Gary, then I think that's a really helpful thing to do. So maybe start with your meal times, put those in, and then think of something that you want to do in the morning and something that you want to do in the afternoon each day for a few days in advance, and then you'll get up in the morning and you'll know what you're going to do. Because I think sometimes the hard thing can be waking up in the morning and thinking, I've got a whole day ahead of me and I don't know what's going to happen, and that can be really anxiety provoking and difficult. Hope that's helpful.
Slow down a little bit. What else do you like to collect?
What else do I like to collect? Oh, when I was a child, I really wanted to collect things like badges and keyrings and erasers, like the kind of things that kids regularly collect. And my mum, bless her, felt that I should have a collection of things that might one day be worth money. So she made me basically collect hat pins, which I had no interest in whatsoever. So I ended up with this collection of hat pins. So now as an adult, I still kind of have an urge to collect erasers and pens and keyrings and kiddie type stuff. So I don't do that. Instead, what we do is we collect magnets from the places that we've been to. It's kind of a Mr. Purple thing, but I've got quite into it too. And we put the magnets for that year up in one place, and then we can look back over the year and see what we've done, which is really lovely. What else do I collect? I don't think I collect anything else. Oh, earrings. I've got quite into recently. I've got into collecting unusual earrings. So these are jelly bears. I don't know whether you can see them, but I have currently got bubble tea, jelly bears, little clouds, little kawaii clouds with little smiles on them, and some Harry Potter lightning bolts. So I'm kind of collecting earrings at the moment, I suppose. And I'm also semi-collecting badges and stickers. Got quite into stickers. I've put some stickers on my laptop. Quite like that.
Okay, so Joe Phillips is asking, how are your parents with your ASD diagnosis? Her parents thinks it's a fad.
Oh, sorry, Joe. Sorry to hear that your parents think that having autism is a fad. Obviously, I completely disagree with that. Ironically, my mum, well, to start with, my dad is actually sadly no more with us, and he passed away when I was in my early 20s, so he doesn't know and never did know. My mum, who I am in contact with, has been really supportive, but that's probably because what she did for a living was worked in firstly in a special needs school, but in a classroom that was predominantly autistic children, and then she worked in a language unit attached to a mainstream school which was almost entirely autistic children. So I spent most of my childhood kind of visiting her work and working with autistic children, and even down to helping on the play schemes for them in the summer. So because she has more of an understanding of autism, I think, she has been quite supportive and fully kind of believes and embraces and is supportive of that diagnosis. And I'm really sorry if your parents aren't that way. That must really suck.
Somebody would like to see your tattoo.
You'd like to see my tattoo? Which one?
The old one, I'm guessing.
The old one. It's, let's show you. It's 3 elephants for the children. 1, 2, 3. And it's kawaii. I very much like it. I'm very pleased with it.
Okay, so Gary Francis, should PIP be awarded for life for autism?
Hi Gary, should it be awarded for life for autism? That's a tricky question, because I think that autism can be different for different people, and in terms of PIP is awarded based on level of need, and I don't know whether that can change through a person's lifetime. Perhaps for an autistic person, if they go from someone who's like fully dependent on care and support to being someone who's completely independent. I mean, I can't say that that's ever happened for me, but maybe there are autistic people whose challenges become less as they learn to cope with the world and as the world is accommodated for them. And if that's the case, maybe their PIP needs to be reassessed occasionally, but I would say more like every 10 years, perhaps. But I guess that's probably quite controversial.
So somebody's getting diagnosed and the parents are worried because they don't know what to do now. What should they be aware of? How to help me? Do you have any advice for them or for me?
I don't really understand that question.
So they're being diagnosed but their parents don't know what to do.
So your parents are looking for some advice on how to support you since you're getting diagnosed. Is that right?
Yes,
would you say?
I would say so. Mm-hmm.
Okay, who is that?
Gwenelle Charm?
Oh, hi Gwenelle, thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Sorry, processing speed. So I would say with anybody who is autistic, Gwen, hi Gwen, I would say that anybody who's autistic has a different set of needs. And as I've said many times on my videos, we're all individual. We all have a different set of needs. And so the best thing that your parents could do is listen to you openly, explaining, if you're able to do that, what you might need them to do to support you. So if there's any areas they particularly have problems with and you want me to talk about potential strategies for those, then go ahead and ask. But I think in general, it'd be best if you all had a sit down, if you felt able to do that, and talk through what might be useful for you personally, especially if they're looking to support you, because that's a really great starting point.
Yeah, nobody really else.
Okay, so I guess I could get into some general strategies while we wait for ways that parents can support newly diagnosed autistic adults. I think the first thing that they can do is listen to your experiences and believe you, and that's a really great starting point. So if you've already got that, you're kind of halfway there. And then it's stuff like understanding that your processing speed might be a little bit might take a little bit longer for you to process things than they're expecting, and so being patient with things like that. Things like if they're expecting you to socialise or go to places, thinking about where you might be able to get a rest or you might be able to get a break from that kind of thing. You know, the sort of general autism strategies. And a really great starting point for that would be to read about autism or watch autistic YouTubers or find autistic people on blogs or whatever their preferred medium is, just researching autism in general. I think there's some more questions, is that right? Mr. Purple's never done this before. I think he's doing a brilliant job.
Could you extend your support ideas to friends as well? What's your favourite music?
What's my favourite music? Who's asked that? Can you let me know who's asked as well?
Luna Aspie.
Oh, hi Luna. My favourite music, I think, is probably either country and western. I'm a big fan of things like Dolly Parton and what's her name? What's her name? I don't know. I like country and western. I like female vocalists who sing from the heart. People like Beth Orton, Jewel, Tori Amos, Kate Bush, all that kind of stuff. I also was really into the indie sort of Britpop scene in the 90s. So Blur, Oasis, the Stone Roses, the Pixies, Stereophonics, going a little bit later. Basically, I really like real instruments and a good vocalist, particularly because I really, really love to sing, and so someone that I can sing along with. You can't stand Kate Bush, her voice hurts your ears. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. I guess we all have different taste, but I might have to kick you off my live stream now. Just kidding. We're big fans here. Bjork, I really liked Bjork back in the day. I used to wear the Bjork hairstyle when I was in my 20s.
Okay, so Joe Phillips says, how can you respond to someone who said, well, you are very mild and high functioning, from a friend?
How can I respond to someone who says you're very mild or high functioning, or any version of you must just have a touch of autism, I guess? I like to respond to that with the fact that what they must be thinking of is people who have autism with a learning difficulty or a speech and language difficulty alongside that, so that basically they're expecting you to behave in the same way as someone who has autism and a learning difficulty, and because you're not behaving in that way, that means that your autism is mild, even though someone with a learning difficulty might have exactly the same kind of profile of autism as you. They're just expressing it differently because of their situation. I hope that's helpful.
Gwen again is asking, do you play an instrument?
Kind of. I played the violin as a child and I did get as far as grade 8 and really enjoyed playing it. I don't play it a huge amount now, to be honest, because I have a really beautiful violin. My violin is a Krask, and it's beautiful and I love it, but it's really, really hard to tune because it's really old and the tuning forks are really sticky, and whenever I try and tune it, my springs pop and snap and I can't play it and I get sad. I also played the piano, but not for very long, and I didn't get very good. So now I mostly just prefer to sing. Have you got any more questions?
So Grace Face says, how do you handle transitions, like even small transitions, changing clothes between activities? Tips for those who struggle? Transitions,
thank you, Grace. Yeah, transitions can be really difficult for us. And I think that the key to transitions is in routine and planning. So for me, the reason that I can handle transitions well is that I have a very tight routine that I live by day to day. So most of the transitions are transitions that I'm doing regularly and I'm expecting. So I know that I'm going to be doing this for an hour and then I'm going to be transitioning into doing another thing next. And because I'm prepared for it and it's something that I'm expecting, I find that a little bit easier. Alternatively, if it's a transition that I'm not expecting, I might just have a massive meltdown, and that's probably not the best way to handle it. So I'm not sure I have the answers for unexpected transitions. I think always with transitions, it's being prepared, knowing what's going to happen, knowing what has happened, knowing what's going to happen. And if you don't know what's going to happen and you've got an unexpected transition, trying to find out as much information as you can kind of straight away so you understand what's going to happen and you can set a new routine. Slow down. Am I talking too fast? What are your thoughts? Mr. Purple thinks I'm talking too fast. Cottontail has asked a question that keeps getting buried. Buried.
Cottontail. Okay,
Mr. Purple is having a look for that now. I'm going to answer this while we're waiting. Luna, how do I manage meltdowns with having children? That's a really good question, actually, because I sometimes feel like when I'm being really honest about my meltdowns, people might potentially judge how I'm parenting during that time. But my children have grown up with the fact that I have meltdowns, and I have spoken to them about what my meltdowns are, and I always, so to start with, if I have a meltdown and it's possible, like say Mr. Purple is in the house, for me to either leave the house or go upstairs to my bedroom and close the door, to our bedroom and close the door, I will do that so that I am distancing myself from the children. If I can't do that and the children have witnessed a meltdown, what that will usually look like is me kind of ranting and being quite larger than life for a while, and then ending up ultimately probably on the floor somewhere crying. And essentially, the children don't seem overly worried by that, because every time that's happened afterwards, I've sat down with them, I've apologised if I've frightened them. I mean, I don't think I do anymore from what they've told me, but I've spoken to them about what's happened, I've talked them through why it happened, and luckily my meltdowns are never directed at them. They never have been. Nothing's ever happened in meltdown that's been directed at them. So I think that's okay. Any more questions?
How did you and Mr. Purple meet?
How did me and Mr. Purple meet? Do you mind me telling that story? Honey?
No?
Okay. Just checking, because Mr. Purple is way more private than I am, hence him never appearing on the internet. He doesn't even do social media. So I went to university in Scarborough, which I talked about in my video last week about 5 other things about me. I went up to do a dance degree in Scarborough, which is in North Yorkshire, and on the first night of my course I met someone who I got on, a man who I got on with really well as a friend, and he turned out to be from the next town along, which is called Bridlington. Does anyone know Bridlington? He was from Bridlington, and he still, which was only sort of 20 minutes away from Scarborough, so he still had his friends in Bridlington come to visit him and he would visit them. And the first time that his friends came to visit, Mr. Purple came and I was there hanging out with them. And I straight away thought that he was really hot, to be honest, and liked him. So I told our mutual friend that I liked him, who encouraged me to go for it because he thought we'd be a good match. But Mr. Purple is 11 years older than me. So at the time I was 18 and he was just about to turn 30. And so I approached him and told him that I liked him, but he really, really nicely told me that he didn't really feel like we'd be looking for the same things, and because of the age gap, and maybe we'd just be friends. And that was right at the start of my degree. And then 3 years later, we got together because we went away for a weekend at Juggling Convention, which is like a place where lots of people who are into juggling gather and camp and juggle, and it's a thing that we were doing a lot at the time because we were both jugglers. And we got on so well that when I got back to my university, I think Mr. Purple had realised that I was going to be leaving soon and this might be his last chance. He asked me out on a date, and I think my response was, yeah, totally. Wasn't it? Is that right? So that's how we met, and we've been together ever since, and that was in 99. So I feel like that's a success.
Is Mr. Purple neurodivergent at all?
Is Mr. Purple neurodivergent? He is not, in a diagnosable way, neurodivergent. He is definitely not autistic, definitely not something as clear-cut as autism or ADHD, but I would say that he does have some sensory issues, which I've never spoken to him about, so this is new to him now, but he's really not very good with certain noises or multiple noise sources at once. He really struggles with that, so I'd say he's got maybe some sensory issues, but no, he's not really neurodivergent. He's neurotypical, I think. How can you ever really know for sure? What do you think? Are you neurotypical? He's not answering. I think so. I think he's neurotypical.
So Cottontail said a question keeps getting buried, but I can't see it at all. I've tracked back.
Can you ask again, please? Cottontail, is that your name? Like a rabbit? That's cute. I like that. Can you ask again? Because we've lost your question and can't find it.
It's just not there.
And I don't want you to feel like we're not answering because we're ignoring you, because we're really not. Any other questions before I go away and sit on? She says she did. Is it? I don't know. I'm assuming you're a girl. You might be a boy.
I've looked all the way back and can't see it.
Can you ask it again right now and I'll look at the screen to see if I can see it? How did you come up with your children's names? You are a girl. How did you come up with Wonder Girl, Robo Boy and Super Kid? Well, when I first started blogging, I've probably mentioned this before, I was a parent blogger right after I'd had my youngest daughter, and I used their real names for about a year, and then a situation happened where I realised that I needed to change their names and I wanted to respect their privacy, and had to go back through my entire blog and change the name on every single thing, which was a bit of a mission. And they because I'm into Marvel and superheroes, I guess they just kind of came to me that I'd want them to be superhero names that they could still carry on with as they get older. So I guess I'm imagining, actually I'd quite like to change Super Kid to Super Teen at some point, because she's 13 now, and eventually Super Girl, perhaps? No, because Supergirl is, but the adult Superman, the female Superman is Supergirl, isn't she? Why isn't she Superwoman? Because we've already got Wonder Woman. We've got Wonder Woman.
So Andrew would like to know what your favourite family outing activities.
Favourite family. Somebody else. Gwen also can't see your question, Cottontail. Sorry, there's obviously some kind of issue there. My favourite family activity outings. We like to go to the cinema. We go to the cinema quite often. And we like to go out to eat, although it's quite expensive, so not too often, but we enjoy going out to eat, and we enjoy going out with the dog. I'm a big fan of going to the beach. Some of us are more or less enthusiastic about the beach because some people don't like sand in this family, but I still drag us there anyway. And Mr. Purple loves to go to the woodland, and so does Super Kid. So I guess we like to get out in nature quite a lot.
So Cottontail, did you find it difficult expressing your needs to your doctors, midwives whilst pregnant?
Yes, and yes, yes, definitely. So I didn't have an autism diagnosis when I had my pregnancies and subsequent labours, but I was known to mental health services, and I was known to have needs. And I think particularly after the birth of Super Kid, which ended up being a C-section, and I ended up having to stay in hospital for about 5 days, I am talking really fast, you're right. I ended up having to stay in hospital for about 5 days, and I don't really feel like when I explained what I needed, I feel like I was often made to feel like I was causing trouble or being too needy. I think it varied from midwife to midwife. Some midwives were really fantastic and really seemed to get it, and some midwives did not. And I think it's probably a horses for courses situation in terms of right midwife for right person. But here's my advice, if I now were to get pregnant and have another baby, which I wouldn't do in a million years, but if I were to, I would use the NAS's hospital passport, which you can download from the National Autistic Society website, to write a hospital passport about what my needs are to be given to where I was planning on giving birth and my community midwives and the health visitor ahead of time, so that everyone's prepared to try and meet those needs.
How do you cope with the hairdressers?
How do I cope with the hairdressers? I don't. I had a really long time of really hating hairdressers because, for the many reasons that I'm sure many of you struggle with, that physical contact, making conversation with someone that you don't know and staring into a mirror. And the mirrors they buy for hairdressers, I'm sure they go to the shop where you buy mirrors and they go, right, which mirror makes me look the worst I could possibly look, because that's what I want to fill my salon with, because you always look dreadful in those mirrors. So I hated that and struggled with it, but now I actually have a mobile hairdresser who was recommended by a friend and understands about autism and comes to my house and is really lovely, and the whole process has gotten a lot easier. So I would recommend a good mobile hairdresser for that.
Any tips for doing a presentation? Luna Aspey's doing one at university, can't make herself sound interesting.
Doing a presentation. First of all, when I first started public speaking, which I've been doing for about 4 years now, I actually wrote down everything that I wanted to say on paper, and I used to stand and read it out. And that was absolutely fine as a way of me getting started. I don't need to do that now, but that was absolutely fine as a way to get started, because I feel like I said what I wanted to say in the order that I wanted to say it. I also always use a PowerPoint presentation because that helps add some more information, make it a little bit more interesting. And then probably the 3 tips that I would say is 1, and this is ironic, slow down, don't talk too fast, because the tendency when we're nervous is to read really, really, really fast. Take your time, pause when you need to, think when you need to. Tip 2, wear something comfortable so there's nothing bothering you while you're giving that presentation. And tip 3, don't be afraid to be your quirky self. I find that if I'm my quirky self, I make the audience laugh a little bit, and people kind of seem to like that. So that goes down quite well. Authenticity seems to go down quite well in those situations.
So just going back to Cottontail, who asked about the problems of being pregnant, she says she's mildly terrified. She's 26 along and it's her first.
Being terrified is completely typical and normal at that stage of pregnancy. I will say that I am the world's biggest wuss, and I went on to have 3 children. So even though there were things about it that were really difficult, in balance, what the children have brought to my life is worth it 1,000,000 times over. They have made me a better person. They've made my life more fun and more interesting. And yeah, try and focus on the fact that you're going to have a child and a relationship with a child rather than the difficult aspects if you possibly can. I would also really recommend mindfulness during these later stages of your pregnancy as a way to relax and try and calm those anxious thoughts.
Just going back to Amy, who says you say you like making models. She enjoys playing games like The Sims. Do you?
The Sims. I don't play The Sims because I don't want to pay lots of money. I don't play games on my laptop. For some reason, that's a rule in my head. Don't ask me why. I play games on my iPad. And the Sims that you can play on your iPad, Sims Mobile, is rubbish. I've tried getting into it, but it's really bad. So I've actually been playing Animal Crossing lately, which I'm really enjoying. And I'm also playing... I just started playing the Stranger Things game that you can get for the iPad, and I'm really enjoying that. That's really fun. And I'm also playing, I think it's called 2 Dots. Is it 2 dots or 3 dots? I'm not sure, but I like that. And in the past, I've had a bit of a stage of being ridiculously into Candy Crush. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit, but I really, really loved Candy Crush for a long time, for about 3 years. I got to an insane, level 1,560 before I gave up. And finally, I'm also playing Word Cookies on my phone. Oh, and Neko Atsumi, which is a cat game. Has anyone played that with cats in a yard and you have to buy them toys and things and take photos of them? I quite like that. You're at level 600. I'm only on like level 10 because I had to find a new game, so I've only recently started playing that.
Okay, so Seabear X-Lite would like to know, what do you mean by your quirky self?
My quirky self, I mean the fact that I am, because of my differences as an autistic person and just as a person, I am an unusual person. And so the way that I speak and the way that I move my body and the things that I say and the directness aren't what people are typically expecting from a public speaker. That's what I mean by that. Okay, what time is it? So I'm going to take 2 more questions and then I'm going to finish this live stream because I've been here for quite a while and I would like to go and watch Netflix and chill. That's if you've got any more questions. If not, I could finish now. Oh, I'm sorry. My chair is really squeaky. That must be really annoying. I think there's another question there. Did you see that?
I was just scanning back to see if I've missed any. I was diagnosed as an adult and masked because one of my special interests is psychology. Any advice for disclosing my autism at work when people don't believe me?
Disclosing autism at work where people don't believe you because you're masking so successfully. I think it's on other people whether they're going to believe you or not, but it can always be useful to hand out resources. So if you want to disclose your diagnosis, I guess first you've got to think about who you want to disclose it to. Do you want it to be known by everyone or just by key members, say HR or people who might need to be there to support you? And then when you've decided what level of disclosure you're going to go for, I would say disclose alongside here are some resources to find out more about autism and how you can support me in the workplace. So I've got a video about autism in the workplace which I'm happy always for links to be shared, or I'm sure that the National Autistic Society has loads of resources about autism in the workplace. Basically, if you can say I'm autistic and here's how you can find out more, and if you'd like to have a meeting with me about my own personal situation and how you can support me. I hope that's helpful. One more question. And Katie, yes, I will make a video about hospital passports for you very soon.
So, how do you bring yourself back from a shutdown and also from a meltdown, especially at work or in public?
From a shutdown or a meltdown in public specifically, that's a really difficult one. I think I'll answer those as 2 separate things. From a meltdown, what I have learned to do now is stop talking, try to stop input altogether. So if I can find somewhere, so if I'm out in public, for example, if I'm out in the street, I'll go to my car because I've always got my car nearby and I'll sit in my car. If I'm somewhere that I'm not near my car, I will go to a public toilet. If you're in your office, say for example, or at work, you can go to the toilet, close the toilet stall and stay somewhere on your own until you can come out of it. And then I would say after the meltdown, I would definitely need to keep things low key so that I don't end up in another meltdown. Shutdowns are kind of different and kind of new for me because I've only really started shutting down since I started to get more of a grip on meltdowns, so that like it's sort of a payoff. And how I come out of a shutdown is basically just not talking to anyone, being as quiet as I need to be, and using fidget toys can be quite helpful, and not having too many expectations on myself. I mean, because of my lifestyle, I'll basically sit on the sofa under my weighted blanket watching Netflix until I feel like I can talk again. But I guess in a work situation, you might need to just, if you've disclosed at work, let people know that that's what's happening and just get on with your work if possible without anyone interrupting you. Right, so I think I'm going to finish there because I've been here for quite a long time. I'm going to do live streams basically roughly once a month, so 4 weeks from today. I think the next one is scheduled for the 10th. Don't hold me to this, but I think it's the 10th of April, the next slot that my live stream will be, but I'll always advertise it on both the Monday ahead of the live stream on the Friday and on the Friday morning on my Instagram @PurpleElla&Coco. Do go and follow me over there because I share loads of stuff over on Instagram that I don't share anywhere else, and also on my Facebook page similarly I share things on there that I don't share anywhere else, and I also advertise on my Twitter profile at Purple Ella. So feel free to follow me on any or all of those places, and then you won't miss the live stream. The other thing to say is that if you subscribe to my channel and then also ring the notification bell, that would then give you a notification when I go live. This is something I've just learned. So if you ring the notification bell, if you're already subscribed, then it'll let you know that I'm about to go live and you won't miss me. Thanks everybody for joining me. I hope that you've enjoyed this live stream, and if you have any suggestions for what you'd like me to talk about in my next live stream, because I'll probably make it a topic oriented live stream like the last one about masking, which is available to watch if you've not watched it yet. If you've got any ideas for a particular topic, go to the actual comment, don't leave it on the live chat because I don't know how to access that later. Go to the actual comment section of this video and stick suggestions for the next one in there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. How do I make it stop? Oh. Bye.